the beginning of the new arc, the Alvarez arc, where Fairy Tail has to rescue their guild master. Not only that, but we also learn the reason why Makarov disbanded Fairy Tail and what was going on between him and Mest. Now, at the beginning of the chapter, since Erza is the new guild master, she was shown Luministoire by Mest, since it is tradition. However, Natsu and the others followed Erza and Mest to find Luministoire, even though they were told many times that this is only between those two, since Erza is the new guild master, but they weren't gonna listen. Hell, I'm surprised that this was still well hidden during this 1-year time skip. So Mest shows Natsu and the others his memories of 9 years ago when Makarov assigned him on this mission to infiltrate the Magic Council. It was to gather intel on the West Continent for the sake of protecting the guild. Now, I believe this is probably like the first or probably the second time, I'm not sure, that we've heard something about a West Continent. I mean, we do know that there are other continents in Fairy Tail, but this is the first time we actually get some detail about other continents in Fairy Tail. However, for the sake of the mission to be successful, Mest had to remove his memories, even though Makarov didn't want him to, but it's okay as long as Makarov's the one who removes them, and that he meets up with Makarov every now and then so that his memories would return. Throughout the months and years, Mest unfortunately couldn't get some intel on the West Continent because diplomatic relations with the West Continent was interrupted. We even get a memory of Mest and Lahar before he infiltrated Fairy Tail during the Tenro Island test. And he had this crazy idea that he would infiltrate Fairy Tail to gather intel from them, which then led to this weird scene where Mest was going crazy and tried to eat Lahar's head for some reason. I don't know, it was really weird. Also, we get to see Lahar again, so that's cool, I guess. I don't know if there are fans out there that like Lahar, but yeah, okay. However, during the time of the Grand Magic Games, Mest did manage to get some intel on the West Continent, and then we get the memory of a year ago after the events of Tartarus when Makarov declared that he was going to disband Fairy Tail. It was all because of all that intel that they gathered on the West Continent. And from what they found out about the West Continent is that in the country, there is this major power called Alvarez, which is way too dangerous and extremely powerful. And Alvarez, 10 years ago, tried to invade Ishgar to capture Luministoire. However, the invasion stopped because the Magic Council used the Etherion, but since the Magic Council, the Etherion, and Face are now gone, that leaves Ishgar defenseless, which means that Alvarez will have a chance to invade again. Even if Fairy Tail did gather as many allies as they could, it probably wouldn't be enough against Alvarez, since it's a massive, gigantic empire consisting of 730 guilds. That is a lot. So in order to buy some time, Makarov decides to go and negotiate with the Emperor of Alvarez to get some sort of like peace treaty or something. All this so that he can protect Fairy Tail. And, you know, Makarov did have some good intentions there, but I'm not exactly sure if this was really a good idea. I mean, okay, if Alvarez caught wind that Ishgar is defenseless, but if they also caught wind that Fairy Tail has been disbanded, even if Makarov did try to negotiate with the Emperor, he probably would refuse and use this as a chance to investigate the East Continent and determine the location of Luministoire. Hell, I don't even know if disbanding the guild was a good idea in the first place, because sure, it was to protect Fairy Tail, but Fairy Tail has gotten very popular thanks to the Grand Magic Games, and I'm pretty sure Alvarez would know who is a member of Fairy Tail, even if they did disguise their guild marks or kept them hidden or something. So, like I don't know. But still, I did like this chapter. I thought it was good because we get some information about this West Continent, but also about Alvarez and why Makarov disbanded the guild. So knowing what happened to Makarov, the Fairy Tail members were worried because they haven't heard from him for a year, so they were thinking that something bad really happened to him. But Erza suggests that they should go on an infiltration mission consisting of the whole group in the room to go to Alvarez, infiltrate the West Continent, rescue Makarov, and bring him back. Which, you know, is a good idea, I guess. But they're taking Natsu with them, and well, we all know what happened the last time he went on an infiltration mission, so yeah, this is not gonna be easy. However, Gajil caught word of this because of his heightened sense of hearing, so he decides that he'll take along with them, but with a different team going on a different route. So it's just gonna be him, Panther Lily, Kana, Mira Jane, and Juvia. And speaking of Juvia, since Mary Jane told her that Gray went off with Erza, Natsu, and Lucy, it got her to think of Gray and Lucy together alone. Seriously, there is something wrong with this girl. These whole delusions of love and all that is just really annoying. It's not funny anymore. This is ridiculous. It's just ruining Juvia's character. So, as I said before, Team B is going to take on a different route, but instead of going to Alvarez, first off, they have to go and find Laxus. Finally, Laxus has been mentioned because I was wondering what the hell happened to him. So yeah, they're going to go and find Laxus and the Raijinshu, and then go to Alvarez and help out Team A. We then cut to the Magic Council where we see the top 5 Wizard Saints, and we get to see Jura again, which was really cool. And we also get to see Levy, who's just handing out the documents. Ward is also there, and he's, you know, the same old broccoli head that he was before. But we also get to see 3 new characters, the top 3 Wizard Saints. Number 3 is Wolfheim, which apparently has the magic ability to turn into this grotesque monster. I guess, you know, since his name is Wolfheim, it's supposed to represent a werewolf or something. And then we get number 2, who is Hyperion, who looks like a friggin' vampire. I'm not kidding. I mean, he's got the cape, the slick back hair, the pointy ears, the works. And it seems that they're also aware about Alvarez and the West Continent. But things should be okay since they have God Serena, number 1 of the top 10 Wizard Saints. Unfortunately, Ishgar's strongest mage has defected and joined with Alvarez as a member of the Spriggan 12. Now, the Spriggan 12 are apparently a group of 12 very powerful mages who are the shields of the Emperor, Emperor Spriggan. We even get to see what God Serena looks like, and honestly, I thought Serena was going to be female, but instead, Serena is a male who looks like Yuri from Fairy Tail Zero with these weird pigtails. So I didn't know what was up with that, but yeah, he defected to Alvarez. Why, I don't know. Maybe he also wanted to get Luminous Star or something. I don't know. All I know is that their strongest mage has now joined the other side, so yeah, they're kind of screwed in a way. But basically this chapter was setting up for the infiltration mission. I'm also glad that we get to see the other Wizard Saints, but I still don't get why God Serena would defect to Alvarez. Maybe we'll know when the time comes, but since the Magic Council seems to be aware of the situation, are they going to make preparations just in case Alvarez would try to invade Ishgar? I'm not exactly sure, but I'm hoping so. But for now, things aren't going so well for Ishgar. So Team A's infiltration mission has begun. They're heading towards the capital of Alvarez called Arakitasia. And they're on a boat, so yeah, that's not very good for Natsu and Wendy. However, they're making a stop to Caracol Island to meet up with a spy who's going to help them in their infiltration mission, but also to gather some supplies. Meanwhile, Team B were off to find Laxus and the Raijinshu, and Elfman and Lisana are taking along as well as Levy, which led to this short joke between Gajil and Levy, which I thought was actually kind of cute. Back with Team A, they arrive on the island. However, they notice these giant boats, and it seems that the Alvarez Imperial Navy has gotten word of a spy on the island, so they arrive there to investigate. Team A had to get past these guards, and they did disguise their guild marks with the mark of Kate Shelter. And for some reason, Charles has to be in her human form because I don't know, so you could see her in a swimsuit, I guess. And speaking of swimsuits, Team A were in their swimsuits disguising themselves as guild members going on vacation. This leads to Plan B, which consists of Erza and Lucy using the power of fan service to get past the guards. Well, that was easy. So they did manage to get to the island safely. Unfortunately, the moment they get there, there is already some conflict going on between this little girl and these guards who took away their daddy, and she was crying because she wants her daddy back. Even though Fairy Tail was on an infiltration mission, they had to step in because they didn't want to see this little girl get hurt, because this guard was irritated and he was going to hit her with her sword. So everyone, not only Natsu, but Erza, Lucy, and Gray, kick the guards' asses while Wendy protects the girl, and Mess just completely freaks out because he knows that they're screwed. So yeah, that infiltration mission went well. But to be fair, Fairy Tail wasn't going to stand by and watch this little girl going to get attacked by this one guard, so it was understandable why they would step in. But it just happened so suddenly. It happened like the moment they got to the island. Wouldn't it make more sense if that there was a bit of conflict every now and then going on, but it wasn't like too major for them to step in? They would just be very angry seeing the Imperial Navy acting like this. And then when they get to like a major confrontation later on near the end of the chapter, that would be when they would step in. I don't know, it's just like, it just happened like so sudden. But, you know, aside from that, I thought the chapter wasn't bad. And as for like the whole fan service scene, I didn't mind it. In fact, I thought it was actually a little bit funny. So, yeah, I thought the chapter was alright. You know, you'd think this could be easily avoided if Mest just used his memory magic to erase the guards' memories or something. But no, that would be way too logical because we need some fodder for Fairy Tail to kick ass. So while they're going to deal with the guards, Mest is going to go meet up with the spy. But before he does this, there's this weird moment where he just stares at Wendy and Charles taking care of this little girl. And he's just mesmerized by this, saying, "Are they angels?" Okay, one, this is not something to be all in awe over. Two, there's some serious shit going on, and what's very important is to meet up with the informant, the spy. And three, one of those girls is a cat. Yeah, Charles can turn into a human. She has a human form, but she's still a fucking cat. So anyway, Fairy Tail kicks the guards' asses. It was very quick, and they decide to like get some mango gelato from this one stand run by a guy who looks like Walter White from Breaking Bad. For some reason, we have to learn about this guy's dream about spreading gelato throughout Ishgar or some shit. I guess to make us feel sympathetic for what's to come later on, because his stand gets blown up by this one asshole named Marin Hollow, a member of the Imperial Army Brandish Squad. Why did he blow up the gelato stand? I don't know. He's a dick. So, with this Marin guy, apparently he has the ability to control space. He has this space-like magic where he can nullify other types of space magic. For example, nullifying the X-Quip for Erza, and of course nullifying Lucy's Celestial Spirit magic. Although, what I find pretty funny is that after he explained that space-like magic is ineffective against him, Lucy decides to try to summon Sagittarius. Even though Celestial Spirit magic is also a type of space magic. Lucy, seriously, pay attention! Marin is not only an asshole, but he's also a pervert, because when it came to Lucy and Erza, he was just so happy saying, "You passed with flying colors," and he teleports them into his personal relaxation dimension, which we don't actually see what it looks like, but considering what happens in the next chapter when they come back, obviously they're going to come back, it's pretty messed up room. He then summons Mest, who is beaten up and bruised up right in front of Natsu and Gray. So, yeah, he managed to catch him before he met with the spy. So this leads to this fight between Marin and Natsu and Gray. And they couldn't land a hit on him because he has magic similar to Mest, where he can teleport away from his attacks and even land a couple blows on them. But before the fight can continue on, they meet a member of the Spriggan 12. Brandish Mew, which apparently Mew is the 12th Greek letter, so she is the 12th member of Spriggan 12, or something like that. And for some reason, she's wearing what looks like this gothic Lolita bikini. Well, they're on an island, so yeah, I guess. But considering Natsu and Gray's reactions, her magic power is on a whole different level. There were some weird moments that I didn't really get why they were there, but aside from that, the chapter overall I thought was a good read. Like, what is the point of the beginning of the chapter? I mean, oh yeah, there is a point to it. I mean, not only to show fan service for both sides of the human species, but also to learn that Loxus and the Raijinchu joined Blue Pegasus, except Loxus went off training most of the time. My problem is that the ending of the previous chapter introduced us to a member of the Spriggan 12, and instead of continuing right where I left off, we had to cut to Team B in a freaking hot spring. Okay, yeah, we get fan service for both males and females, but why the fuck would I want to see a naked Ichiya? But Ichiya is there because the hot springs are owned by Blue Pegasus. And thanks to Ichiya, this leads to one of the most uncomfortable scenes that I have seen in Fairy Tail. Gajio wanted to surprise his friends about Loxus being in Blue Pegasus, but it was spilled because of Ichiya, and Ichiya, for some reason, decides to jump up in the air, spread his legs right in front of Elfman's face, and Elfman has his mouth wide open, yelling out, "Madly!" Because fan service for females, I don't know, but if you're gonna have something like that, can you make it, like, not with Ichiya? I mean, for fuck's sakes! This isn't, like, hot or sexy or anything. This is just uncomfortable. I mean, I get better fan service with any scene involving with the Pillar Men from Battle Tendency than this. I don't know why this is pissing me off. Maybe because, like, I wanted to see what was going to happen at that island, but instead I'm treated to, like, 8 to 9 pages of Team B in a hot spring. And I feel bad for Elfman because he's now mentally scarred over seeing Ichiya's dick. And this whole scene just led to Gajio going to the other side of the hot spring, landing on Levi, who's also naked, so giving us another Levi/Gajio moment. There's a joke about her boobs being small, which honestly are a decent size, which then leads to Gajio getting beaten up by Levi. I feel so bad for Levi and Elfman. But thank God that was all done. And then we get back to the island, and it turns out Brandish just didn't really give two shits about the spy on the island. She was just there to get some gelato, and she was all upset that the gelato stand was destroyed. Although, one thing to point out is that during this confrontation, Natsu was grabbing onto his bandaged arm for some reason. There have been theories that he might have gone through some sort of new transformation, some dragonification, or maybe the effects of him being End are starting to come into play. Not exactly sure, but we'll probably find out later on. Now, I know Marin was just going through orders over capturing the spy. However, Brandish's reasons for not going along with this is because she doesn't want to create any conflict, any pointless conflict. So she demands Marin to bring back Erza and Lucy, but he doesn't agree to it until she demonstrates her power, which, with a single step of her foot, managed to raise the island up, which is very impressive. So the girls return, and Brandish was gonna leave, not gonna cause any further conflict, but Natsu wasn't gonna let it slide because Mest got hurt, and he doesn't forgive anyone who hurts his friends. So Brandish decides, okay, let's call it even by killing off Marin. So, yeah, he's dead. I mean, just a single, like, swipe of her hand, and poof, gone. Oh, damn. But this only pissed off Natsu even more since, you know, how can you do that to your own friends? Which, okay, that's fine. I mean, it is a shonen trope after all. But Marin is not only an asshole, abusing his power because he's an asshole. He's a pervert that takes women away, kidnaps them as part of his collection. So, you know what? Fuck that asshole. I'm glad he's dead. So Marin decides to make it look like that she's captured a spy by shrinking the island, sending everyone into the water. And she was well aware that these people were from Fairy Tail, so I guess there was really no need to disguise their guild marks. And she leaves with a warning, saying that Makarov lives, and tells them to return and to stay away. She then disappears, and of course leaving all the people in the water. You know, it's cool now that she can shrink the island, but couldn't she have at least, like, gave them like some sort of land so that they wouldn't drown? But then again, she had to make it look like that she captured the spy, so okay. So yeah, aside from the beginning part of the chapter, which I wasn't a huge fan of, I did like the rest of it. And Brandish Well, we don't know if she's actually the strongest or the weakest, but she is definitely strong considering what we've seen from her power. And she proves that the Spriggan 12 shouldn't be taken so lightly. But I can't get my hopes up just yet because you know how Hiro Mashima hypes up characters only for them to be knocked down. He did this before, so I'm treading carefully. So, again, Hiro, don't fuck this up. Please. Well, everyone is okay thanks to a fishing fleet who happens to be just there, so nobody drowned, thank goodness. However, Mess suddenly had to teleport everyone to an underwater temple, which turns out to be a submarine thing, to meet up with the spy, who happens to be Angel. I know she goes by the name Sorano or Solano, whatever, but I don't know, I'm still gonna call her Angel, her Horatio says name. And she's in a bikini too because why the hell not? I mean, they were on an island, so yeah. So yeah, Angel's the spy, but she's only doing this because she owes Mest one. And there was a moment where Lucy thanks her, but Angel just goes up to her, pulls on her bikini top and says, "I'm the one that killed Karen, don't you forget it." I guess she still has a dark side to her or something, but let's face it, she's gonna get redeemed either way. Or maybe she's already redeemed, but she's denying it. I don't freaking know. Oh, and in case you guys are wondering who Karen is, she was the former owner and abusive bitch to Ares and Loki. But anyway, Angel is going to take them to Makarov's location. Yeah, she knows where Makarov is being held, which is the capital of the Alvarez Empire of Visiterion. And, well, Makarov, we see him, and he has a beard now, but he's not technically a prisoner. Well, he's not held as a prisoner, like a jail cell, but he's just treated as a guest, but someone who can't leave the empire. And apparently he's playing this card game called Regenka against this guy with this really long neck and hump. It's really weird. His name is Yazir, and I don't know how the hell you play Regenka. All I know is it's a card game, and there's a goddess card that looks like Mavis. I guess there's some sort of, like, meaning towards it. But yeah, Makarov has been held up in the Empire for about a year, and he hasn't been able to contact Fairy Tail, let them know that he's okay. I don't know. I guess he couldn't contact them or something, but okay. Well, during his stay, he learned that the Emperor Spriggan, isn't really a dictator. It's only the Spriggan 12 who are more the hot-blooded, powerful kind that are willing to get into a fight or something. Also, apparently the Emperor doesn't stay in his own empire for so long. He wanders a lot, and I guess he's been gone for a year, which explains why Makarov had to wait for a year. But the Emperor has returned, and it turns out that the Emperor is Zeref. That's actually a surprising twist. I wasn't expecting Zeref to be the Emperor of Alvarez. But yeah, he is. And if you're wondering why his death magic hasn't worked yet, well, I guess he had to, like, stop thinking that life was very precious. That way his magic won't be able to kill any of his people in the Empire. Although, I really wanted to know what happened between him and Acnologia, because that was the last time we saw him, and it seems that everything ended off okay for him. This chapter overall, I thought it was pretty good. I did like the ending, but I get the feeling that the negotiations are gonna fall in deaf ears. So in this chapter, not only do we get to see Zeref meeting with Makarov, we also are introduced to more members of the Spriggan 12. The first one being the Winter General Imber, who seems to be more of a by-the-books guy, seems to follow the rules a lot. And then we get two more characters, War Princess Dimaria Goesta and Desert King Azir Lamor. And his shtick is all about desert and sand and stuff like that. We then get introduced to another character named August, the Magic King, and according to him, it seems that Zeref has found the answer about Ragnarok, which he refers to as the final battle. The Ragnarok, the final battle, was actually the Dragon King festival that was mentioned during the Grand Magic Games. So yeah, the next arc is gonna be the Dragon King festival. Actually, that's something I want to see, but again, treading lightly here. And so Makarov and Zeref talking privately outside the Empire, and it turns out that Zeref had been preparing this whole time for the Dragon King Festival for over 400 years, which led to the creation of the Alvarez Empire. Which is, it's weird because I didn't picture Zeref as the kind of person that would run an empire considering, his dark magic and all. But then how does that explain him ending up in Tenro Island? Well, then again, Zeref did wander a lot. He didn't stay in his empire for so long, I guess. They then talk about Luministoire, which turns out it has a real name called Fairy Heart, and it's supposed to be the ultimate hidden magic, which is even more powerful than the 3 grand fairy magics, which, in case you guys don't know, it's Fairy Sphere, Fairy Law, and Fairy Glitter. So Zeref's intention is not only to get Luministoire, Fairy Heart, I guess I should say, but also to start an extermination since the Dragon King Festival is going to start soon, which will consist of Zeref, Acnologia, and the humans. He then thanks Makarov for raising Natsu, and then traps him in the spear, looking like he was going to kill him, thinking that once Natsu knows that Makarov has died, he'll be very angry and will come after Zeref to kill him. And Makarov's final words were, "You filthy little demon," but Zeref replies, "Close. Spriggan is the name of a filthy little fairy." Now this was actually a pretty good scene. It looked like it was going to lead for the Guildmaster of Fairy Tail to die. Makarov was gonna die, and it's gonna be at Zeref's hand, which would be a good opportunity for some character development from Natsu. But fucking Dornbull teleports and it grabs Makarov and teleports away. What the fuck? Again, we get this situation where we see Makarov looking like he's going to die, only for him to survive again. God damn it! And freaking I said Dornbull, did I? Fuck it, whatever. Mest shows up and teleports, and he teleports right at Fairy Tail's location, which was a pretty long distance. So he could have done this whole time. Hell, he can teleport to places that he's never even seen before. Like, did he know that Makarov was going to be there? Like, what if Makarov wasn't there? What if he just teleported right in front of Zeref and he's like, "Oh shit, I gotta get out of here." Just, what the fuck? And in case you guys were wondering, well, maybe Natsu had to witness Makarov dying. Well, Naruto didn't witness Jiraiya dying by the hands of pain, and yet when he heard about his death, it still had that emotional impact on him. Jiraiya's death proved that not witnessing a death can be very effective for the main character. And this would have been very effective for Natsu. It would have given like a good opportunity for some character development or something. And I guess to get stronger, to kill Zeref, to avenge his master's death. It would have been so great. But no, Hiro wouldn't let that happen. Zeref knows that Natsu is there. So, yeah. Well, I thought the chapter was, well, it was alright. But, like, freaking Dornbull teleports there. So Natsu and the others were happy to see Makarov again, but Makarov was sad and he was crying because all of his efforts were for nothing. There was never going to be a negotiation, but Natsu and the others comforted him, saying that it wasn't all for nothing since they did get stronger within a year, and they did rebuild Fairy Tail. And Natsu goes up to Makarov, extends his hand saying, "Let's go home, Gramps." And Mest apparently didn't have a lot of magic power, so he only has enough to teleport them one more time. And he's going to do that to teleport them back to Serrano's ship. But they have to get to a location where he can make a direct line. So Mest teleportation works as a direct line. I guess that explains why he was able to teleport to the Empire Castle. Which is still... whatever. But before they could leave, Azir shows up, the sand guy. And apparently he knows that they're there because the sand told him. I don't know. But he's not going to let them escape. But Makarov tells them that they can't fight him because he's not someone that they could defeat easily. So their only other option is to retreat in this magic four-wheeler that Charles prepared. Apparently they had this whole time. I don't know. Well, whatever. Yeah, they're going to use that to escape But Erza was going to throw some swords at Azir to buy some time for them. But apparently with Azir's magic, not only can he control sand, but he can turn anything that comes in contact with him into sand, as he turned Erza's swords into sand. And that really wasn't enough to buy them time, because Azir managed to create a giant sand monster, which looks awesome, to try to stop Fairy Tail from escaping. But that's easily dealt with thanks to Gray in this new form now. Apparently that marking that he had during the Avatar arc, he can like control that fully as well. I guess it's like the equivalent to Dragon Force, so is it like a Devil Force? I don't know, but he's in this new mode, and he uses a technique called Ice Make Silver to freeze not only the entire area, but the golem as well, which is really cool. And it's a technique named after his father, so that's a nice homage to him. But Azir creates sand-flying monsters, so it's Lucy's turn, using Star Dress Sagittarius form, where she's equipped with a bow and arrow, and can shoot multiple arrows called Star Shot, which actually looks pretty cool, the outfit, but it would probably look even better if she actually wore pants and not this thong underwear thing. I don't know, but I'm just saying, like, why not like add pants to the outfit? So while Gray and Lucy were dealing with the sand monsters, Azir teleports below them, creating a giant antlion pit. And he used this technique many times before on God knows how many people that he killed with that, and how many towns that he enveloped with that antlion pit. Azir gloats, saying that the land of Ishgard has been abandoned by God. It shall from here on out be ruled by Alvarez. Spriggan 12 is on a completely different level than you guys, blah, 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 blah. But then an explosion occurs, and the antlion pit was vaporized, I believe thanks to Natsu's fire. I mean, that's the only logical explanation I can think of as to how they were able to escape from that, but yeah, I think it is from Natsu's fire. And the Cage Shelter guild marks disappears, revealing their Fairy Tail guild marks. And the chapter ends with Natsu fire punching Azir in the face. Okay, well technically he didn't one-shot the guy, so I'm gonna let that slide. But overall, this chapter was actually pretty good. Azir seems pretty tough, but he's the kind of guy that can get very cocky and arrogant. So that might lead to his downfall. But it was cool seeing Lucy's new star dress, and seeing Gray using his Devil Slayer magic. So yeah, it looks like Fairy Tail is going to take on Azir in order to escape. But what I really did find funny is that, as cool as that 2-page spread of Fairy Tail, Mess isn't there. He wasn't even shown. He doesn't even get like a badass pose. That's kind of mean. So Fairy Tail tries to take on Azir, first with Gray using his ice magic, but Azir was able to turn the ice into sand. He tries to envelop them all into sand once again, but Makarov finally decides to participate in the battle, growing his hand trying to squash Azir, but he dodges. And now in his giant form declares, "You will not harm my children," so he's gonna try to take on Azir all by himself. I'm not exactly sure. But Azir decides, you know what, fuck this. I want to summon a giant sand tsunami to kill you all. Okay, that was pretty cool, a freaking giant sand tsunami. And this technique has the ability to vaporize the moisture out of everything it touches. So again, another situation where it looks like Makarov is going to sacrifice himself for his guild members. So he uses himself as a protective shield to protect Natsu and the others. But let's face it, Makarov isn't gonna die yet. Lightning bolt comes out of nowhere and blasts the tsunami away, and it turns out it is freaking Luxus on this flying ship. Yes, finally Luxus shows up, and he was a badass in this chapter. He also got a new look, and I think he looks older now, but I like the new look. I think it's pretty cool. Not only was Luxus there, but Ichia and Team B were there as well. So they managed to meet up with Luxus and the Raijinshi, which honestly I wish we could have gotten a chapter of them meeting up with them instead of like a chapter of them in a freaking hot spring, but whatever. We get to see Luxus again. We even get to see Freed, Bixlow, and Evergreen again. So Mess teleports them all onto the ship. Oh, and as to why Luxus and Galgiel aren't getting motion sickness from the ship, apparently it's custom made for Dragon Slayers, which I don't understand that, because like I thought they won't get motion sickness if they ride on animals. Maybe it's an animal in disguise on the ship. I'm not exactly sure. But Ness teleports them all onto the ship, and Azure tries to use the sand again to prevent them from escaping, but Loxus summons a fucking massive lightning bolt which explodes the entire area. Massive lightning explosion. It was awesome. It looked like that he could have vaporized Azure if it wasn't for August interfering, creating a barrier to protect him. But then again, we wouldn't know if Azure really would have gotten killed from that attack. If that is true, then maybe Azure is the weakest out of the Spriggan 12. I'm not sure. I don't even know how strong Loxus has even gotten. I don't know if he's up to Spriggan 12 level. I highly doubt that, but he's gotten pretty powerful during this 1 year time skip. So yeah, Fairy Tail managed to escape. They reunite with their Guildmaster. Everyone is all happy. Especially Makarov, he's happy to see them again. He cries saying this is the best family ever. And that is it. The infiltration mission, the rescue mission has now been a success. Well, for now at least. They're still in the West Continent, so they have to get back to Ishgar. So, does this mean that Makarov is going to become the 8th Guildmaster? That's so weird. I guess Makarov is now going to take over as Guildmaster again. I don't know if Erza is going to continue on being Guildmaster, but I feel like that Makarov is going to take back the mantle again. And even though Fairy Tail has been rebuilt now, even though Fairy Tail has reunited, everyone has fully reunited, there's still the matter with Alvarez, the Spriggan 12, Acnologia, and Zeref. Since the next arc, I'm assuming, is going to be preparation for the Dragon King Festival, which, as I said before, I'm looking forward to seeing it, but still, I'm treading lightly because I don't want to get my hopes up over it. Yeah, I'm finally caught up with Fairy Tail, although by the time this video will be released, there will probably be like a chapter or two that still needs to be reviewing, but since I've now fully caught up with it, I can now get back to reviewing this series on a weekly basis. The next chapter, 448, will be called Fight the Power. Row, row, fight the power! I had to, I couldn't help it. So that might mean that we'll get some training, or we'll get some more info on Alvarez. We'll see more of the Spriggan 12, I'm not exactly sure, but yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what is going to happen next. So yeah, tell me guys your thoughts about these past couple chapters in the comments below. Like the video if you like it, subscribe to more videos, check out my Facebook fan page and Google+. Yeah, now I'm back on reviewing Fairy Tail again. I'm LearnSpawn27 and I'll see you guys later. Bye.